Everybody knows that some organs in the human body are necessary for survival, but no one thinks about their kidneys being a very strong factor in this category. Cells have very different environments and different types of solutions. In isotonic solutions, if the concentration of salt is equal on both sides, the water will move back and forth through the cell. Iso means same, which means the water is traveling in both directions. In hypotonic solutions, hypo means less, so there are less salt molecules outside the cell. Since salt sucks, water moves into the cell, creating an equal amount of salt on the outside as well as the inside. This causes cells to expand. In hypertonic solutions, the word hyper means more, meaning more salt outside the cell, causing water to be sucked out. This causes cells to shrink. The cell membrane is a thin, semi-permeable membrane that surrounds the cytoplasm of a cell, enclosing its contents. Its function is to protect the integrity of the interior of the cell by allowing certain substances into the cell while keeping other substances out. The cell membrane is primarily composed of a mix of proteins and lipids. While lipids help to give membranes their flexibility, proteins monitor and maintain the cell's chemical climate and assist in the transfer of molecules across the membrane. Diffusion is the process by which molecules spread from areas of high concentration to areas of low concentration. There are many different types of these. Active transport uses energy to pump molecules against or up the concentration gradient. Amino acids, sugars, and carbohydrates all need to enter the cell by protein pumps, which require active transport. The importance of this type of diffusion is to transport molecules through cell membrane against the concentration gradient, so more of the substance is inside the cell or outside the cell than normal. Passive transport moves molecules down the concentration gradient. This is to maintain the equilibrium in the cells. This type of diffusion does not require energy. Osmosis is the diffusion of water across the cell membrane. Water will move in the direction where there is a high concentration of salt. When salt is concentrated inside or outside the cell, it will draw the water in its direction. One of the main jobs of the kidney is to filter the waste out of the blood, which is called glomerular filtration. Your blood delivers nutrients to your body. During this time, chemical reactions occur in the cells of your body to break down the nutrients. Some of the waste is the result of these chemical reactions. Some is just stuff your body doesn't need because it already has enough. This is where the kidneys are put to work. First, your blood is carried into the kidneys by the renal artery. The average person has 1 to 1.5 gallons of blood circulating through his or her body. The kidneys filter that blood as about 400 times a day. Another process is called tubular reabsorption, and this is when the kidneys take out the good stuff and put it back into the blood. Tubular secretion moves the completely filtered urine with all the other waste and is then excreted through the urinary tract. The kidneys like to have a certain place of equilibrium throughout, also known as homeostasis. If you put all of the water that you take in on one side of the scale and all the water that your body gets rid of on the other side of the scales would be balanced. Your body gets water when you drink it or other liquids. Kidneys also produce hormones to create red blood cells and maintain your blood composition. What happens when the kidneys don't work? Approximately 1,500 liters of blood are filtered by a healthy person's kidneys each day. We could not live if waste products were not removed from our kidneys. People whose kidneys either do not work properly or at all experience a buildup of waste in their blood. Without dialysis, the amount of waste products in the blood would increase and eventually reach levels that would cause a coma or even death. Dialysis. There are two types of dialysis, hemodialysis and peritoneal dialysis. Hemodialysis is the process of blood circulating outside the body of the patient. It goes through a machine that has special filters. The blood comes out of the patient through a catheter that is inserted into the vein. The filters do what the kidneys do. They filter out the waste products from the blood. The filtered blood then returns to the patient via another catheter. The patient is, in effect, connected to a kind of an artificial kidney. When a patient is being prepared for hemodialysis, a blood vessel, usually in the arm, needs to be enlarged through surgery. The enlarged vein makes the insertion of the catheter possible. Hemodialysis usually lasts about 3 to 4 hours each week. The duration of each session depends on how well the patient's kidneys work and how much fluid weights the patient has gained between treatments. Peritoneal dialysis is a sterile solution rich in minerals and glucose that run through a tube in the peritoneal cavity where the peritoneal membrane acts as a semi-permeable membrane. Peritoneal dialysis uses the natural filtering ability of the peritoneum. In other words, the peritoneal dialysis uses the lining of the abdomen as a filter of waste products from the blood. The dialysate is left there for some time so that it can absorb waste products. Then it is drained out through a tube and discarded. This cycle is repeated several times a day with an automated system. The elimination of unwanted water occurs through osmosis as the dialysis solution has a high concentration of glucose. It results in osmotic pressure, which causes the fluid to move from the body into the dialysate. Side effects include low blood pressure, nausea and vomiting, dry or itchy skin, restless leg syndrome, and muscle cramping. And there are my credits. Goodbye.